Hello, everyone, and welcome back for our second best of 5 C-LOL semifinal. We still got Emily Rand blessing our presence here on the desk, and to join us for the first time of the day, Five Fire, our proving ground champ. Five Fire, how you doing, dude? What's your day been like?
I'm doing good. Was sitting here watching the series before, waiting for my chance to be on the desk. I'm so happy to be back. I had such a great time when I was able to be here on Proving Grounds earlier this year, so I'm happy to be back.
Nice.
Oh, and we're so happy to have you back. What have you made of the last semifinal that we just kicked off?
It was super interesting. We saw lots of crazy picks, the Gwen, the Annie coming out, even a Viego as well. So I'm excited to see exactly what this series will bring, and I hope it'll go to all 5 games because, I love watching League of Legends. I want to see these two teams duke it out, so I want to see them go the distance.
Yeah, who knows? Only the future will tell us what we are in for, and I know either way it's going to be a treat. Speaking of treats, we are so lucky. We've got a master of the mid lane right here with Five Fire. So when we're talking about this matchup that we got going down between HU Storm and Winthrop, Five Fire, I gotta ask you, what do you make of the mid laners?
I mean, both of these mid laners are stars in their own right, making it to top 4 in collegiate. On the one side, you have Doxa, and, we heard lots of Doxa diff in the quarterfinals yesterday. You can see he has an amazing KDA, 23 kills and only 3 deaths. Also, over 2,000 gold difference at 15 is like almost unheard of in high-level play. So Doxa is definitely this massive player. But on the other side, like Amaz, he's also been showing up. He's been playing the more controlled, the more passive control mage style, but he's been showing up in the team fights that are so important to how HU Storm plays the game.
Yeah, and that's the thing that we'll be looking at when we're kind of following into these moments. Ooh, ISU really bringing a heartbreaker to us in the quarterfinals, Emily. I mean, like Amaz and Drew Dozer were really going at it.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the most important thing for Harris, both these matchups, both these mid lane matchups, is how their junglers affect the lane, right? Like, you heard Doxa talking about it in his interview yesterday, but he was like, I get a lot of resources from the team, and then in turn I give that back in terms of priority or in terms of kills or whatever. So I think it's really important to note both junglers' role in this in terms of how they play around their mid laners or the rest of the map, and generally how early they are in lanes overall.
Yeah, that is a very important point to make, how shorter Ace was playing around the lanes, where even if you look to the opposite side with Frostforest. And let's talk a bit more about Doxa here, Five Fire, because yes, he was playing so well out of his mind, but as Emily did just say, it also comes off the back of some great support from his teammates.
Yeah, I mean, we see here already in this play, Frostforest is coming mid. They're able to force this Pantheon's Flash with Sirkenji roaming up the river as well. And then not even a minute later, they're coming back to this mid lane, investing the Paranoia, showing up. They start off with this 2v2. And once again, we see Sirkenji coming up the river, once again, able to land another hook, letting Doxa get this kill. So while Doxa is performing insanely well and having all these pop-off plays, his team is definitely putting in the resources, putting in the attention to help them. And he's able to really deliver, especially in some of these later game fights. Once he has the lead, he's playing them really cleanly. You see here in the Syndra in the backline, he's going to ult and set up this massive 5-man stun that is able to allow Sasuke to jump into the backline, assassinate everybody, and win the fight for Winthrop University. So I'm super excited to see, how they'll be able to keep playing around Doxa in this series. You even see here the enemy team is trying to gang up on him. They're sending 3 people towards mid. Doxa maybe looks overextended, think he's gonna die. Nope, Sirkenji's right there behind him with the Braum shield. Doxa gets low, but is able to get off that Kingslayer and live barely, as with Frostforest coming in as well. So, Doxa is this amazing pop-off player, but he gets the help, he gets the assistance, but he performs well with it in the end. So I think it's good for Winthrop.
And it is impressive to see whether on the control meter of a Syndra or on the Silas play having such a grand effect on the rest of the team with different play styles. I do want to talk a bit more about the junglers. So we already touched on the fact that players like Frost Forest have such a key role within Winthrop's, or rather within this lineup going against Shorter Ace. And, you know, Shorter Ace even called out in an interview that he is eager, so eager to face off against Frost Forest.
Yeah, and Frost Forest is going up against his old team, right? So he obviously wants to beat them as well. I think this is going to be a really interesting matchup given how each jungler likes to affect their lanes. From Shorter Ace, I kind of see him as like a main pressure point on this team, right? Where he can play more of a carry role, whereas I think Frost Forest has been a little bit more of a facilitator. He's in mid lane helping Doxa. He's transferring Prio from bot with some of Sir Kenji's roams. And I think when I look at these two, I'm like, okay, how early is Frost Forest going to be in lanes, and how early is he going to be able to affect those lanes? And then for Shorter Ace, it's how early is he going to be able to be a major pressure point for this team, and how are they going to play around him? Because I feel like additionally, Harrisburg, and Shorter Ace said this himself, he's like, we know that we're at a disadvantage when it comes to hands, right? Like, we're at a hands disadvantage. So what we really want to do is play together as a unit. We want to get out of lane, we want to play as a team, and we want to go for these fights where we have advantageous setups. And I think it kind of starts with Shorter Ace for that, and then how the rest of the team kind of files in and how they can play around each other and be really well coordinated in these fights. Because in this quarterfinal series, we saw some of these fights should have gone ISU's way with the scaling advantage they had, and Harrisburg was able to target really, really well. Again, like kill off the Kassadin before Drew Dozier could do enough damage to make a huge difference. And even when they were almost coming back, it was still these team fights for Harrisburg that really stood out as their primary win condition.
It was what, about 83% kill participation, I think, is what we saw for Shorter Ace. So I think it's very fair to say that he has an extremely impact on the rest of the team. Five Fire, just from the perspective of somebody that knows these players really well and competing against them, what do you think that Shorter Ace offers to the team, not just as a player, but maybe even from that experience and leadership perspective?
Yeah, I mean, Shorter Ace is a great guy. He has lots of experience playing on lots of different teams. And I mean, and you see in some of those clips, he's willing to go in 1 versus 5, lay his life down on the line to start the fight for his team, And it's really great when you have somebody who has, the courage and the confidence to go in like that. It bolsters the rest of your team at the exact same time. And he also has the experience to know when going in is a good idea versus, going in and just dying 1 versus 5, right? So really looking forward to seeing how Shorter Ace is able to sort of lead the team in those engages in the mid and late game, and we'll see if it's enough to take down Winthrop.
That first step of being willing to make the plays, the next step of finding the exact time to do so. And it's something that we have had the privilege of watching on the side of Shorter Ace, being that we are getting into this match and it will be determining who is making it into the finals. I do want to get the predictions here from our analyst. This one's a bit tougher to predict. It feels like just getting kind of the general consensus of everyone. I'm going to kick it to Emily first, putting you on the spot. Is it HE Storm or is it Winthrop?
I waffled a lot on this actually because I think the matchup is super interesting for a lot of reasons that Fire touched on, and I also touched on already in the segment, where I think Harrisburg really shines when they can get these team fights they want. And then for Winthrop, I think they have insanely strong laners, and facilitating those laners to get ahead, in particular Doxa, but I mean Saskia and Sir Kenji are actually a really great lane as well. I think that is going to be the main difference. So even with a lead, I think Harrisburg, if they get that team fight, it'll depend on composition, but that's how we've seen them win. I'm still going 3-1 for this in favor of Winthrop, and people might be like, well, Emily, you picked Maryville 3-1, and you're saying this is going to be a lot closer. I think the games themselves are going to be a lot closer between these two teams, but I do think Winthrop is going to edge it out.
Okay. Officially Winthrop for Emily. What about you, Five Fire?
You know, I have to echo a lot of the same sentiment as Emily here, that I, kept going back and forth on this series. Like I said, I want to see 5 games, but in the end, I do have to agree with Emily. I think Winthrop will be able to take it 3-1. I think HU Storm will be able to find at least one game where they're able to have good footing. They're able to find those team fights, find those engages. But I think it is just incredibly difficult when they're at the hands disadvantage, like they said. A lot of those team fights, even though you think maybe you can win them against these tougher opponents, these better teams, not all the same angles are there. You can't take all the same fights. And in the end, I think Winthrop will be able to take the series.
While you are both united in your predictions, the fact that you had to go back and forth a bit more does make me so stoked for this, because hopefully we'll be in for a banger series. I am ready to find out who the other finalists here at the College League of Legends Championship is going to be. And to bring us all of the action, we have none other than Jolly and Crumbs. Take it away.
Thank you so much, LaTigers. And you heard that right. Jolly is in it to win it. We got Crumbs here, of course. Silver linings, I guess. I've been trying to connect all day. It took 2 trips to Best Buy, 4 heart attacks, and swapping over to my roommate's computer. So I think we are good now. I'm assuming Crumbs can hear me because, he's smiling. But there's my silver lining. I didn't get to cast earlier with Alk, but I get to cast with Crumbs, baby.
I can hear you, Jolly. You have to take the stage and announce what has happened. You've missed on that first series, which was a great one, albeit, but we'll get to see them later as they play on the grand finals. This time around, though, we do get 2 of the games that went the distance yesterday. So I think, like the Death said, we're going to have a much closer matchup. And what I really enjoyed about their highlighting the 2 teams was how Winthrop was, the Storm was saying how they have a hands disadvantage, how they don't feel like they can actually compete mechanically, which is not a problem at all. In fact, the meta right now is perfect. If you feel like you have a hands disadvantage, there's plenty of champions that don't require much mechanical skill that are S tier, the Nautiluses, the Udyrs, the Morganas. You can actually be very good and not need those mechanics. So the draft is going to be really important in determining if it plays to their strength.
Yeah, I think Katarina and Yi, you only need to use your face. So if you want to go that way, there's other options. We already got the first round of bans come through, though. Gangplank, Lee Sin, and the Thresh on the side of Winthrop, trying to get stuff away from Sandflame, who's one of the stronger members here for Storm. And then we've got the Nocturne, the Syndra, and the Varus, definitely keeping that Syndra away from Doxa. They do not want to see any more of those incredible scatter the weeks that we saw coming from Winthrop yesterday. We've also got so much hunger. I think that's one of the big things that is underlying in this matchup in particular. You have Saskia, who is looking to be the first 3-time CLOL champion, also graduating this semester at the end of the semester, so kind of a last stand. Same thing, like a Moss is set to lead as well. So you've got multiple players who are kind of in their last stand to win a CLOL championship, and they are both looking to get into that grand final.
And I think part of the reason why you've got that hunger is, I look down memory lane and I see that the coach for HU Storm, none other than Special, longtime veteran of the League of Legends scene, won many championships on TSM, now coaching for teams. That kind of attitude transfers over to the players and allows you to actually feel confident in that the direction of your team is a good one. And often these matches, the semifinals, can give us a little bit more fire than even the grand finals themselves, just because it means so much for these teams to go and know that you made it to the final matchup.
Oh, for sure, especially getting this far in top 4, and now just one team remains to be locked in here for the championship. So absolutely, the hunger resides in all 10 players right here. I think we had definitely a Winthrop sway on the analyst desk, so we'll see how that works out. The Gwen lock-in, though, it's a good sign for Winthrop right there. However, Hopeful, who has by far the best KDA on Storm overall, almost 6.0 KDA, has got the Kaisa, so one of the favorites there on the side of Storm.
And the Gwen we saw in the previous matchup in the top lane with the Ignite, so we know it can already be flexed pretty successfully. I think this is going to be Doxa's champion, frankly. He had such a good showing yesterday on these melee kind of assassin champions. Gwen just fits his playstyle so darn well. I think it's going to go in the mid lane, and if the Victor is the answer, this to me means that the Winthrop Eagles are going to be able to have a fairly aggressive early game, while the HU Storm, they're going to try to scale it back. You already have the Victor. You can count on your wave clear to stall the game out, but for how long, though? We know that Gwen, combined with the Nautilus, can accelerate the game very quickly.
That and a Tristana, which we haven't really seen much of at all in rounds 32, 16, or even here in 8. So the lock-in there for Saskio, who is one of the most driven players here. Like I said, really wants to be that first one to get a 3-time CLO championship, and it's his last shot. So picking up that Tristana, getting that Nautilus with, I mean, honestly, we've seen how incredible his passive has been. Not just the hooks, but the passive on top of it to get the additional CC. These have been a lot of crowd control and just straight up attack damage games or straight up damage games. And it seems like Storm and Eagles are kind of both going for the same thing again.
And, you know, you highlight the use of the passive and the Nautilus and the Set, who can also be put in the support role here into Nautilus, I think are very good picks for playoff games, for best of series, because oftentimes these are the better teams that are not going to give you those windows of opportunity to find those engages. And these point and click, just flash in and find the fight abilities that these two champions have actually allow you to punish the enemy much easier than if you're picking a champion like the Thresh that is much more reliant on actually landing those skill shots. So now you have a guaranteed way to start the fight, and it can often be the recipe for snowballing as you can find somebody caught out of position and consistently punish them for it.
And that's something that Winthrop is going to have to watch out for as well, because HU Storm absolutely prides themselves on being one of the best team fight and just overall macro teams in Collegiate League of Legends right now. So they are absolutely looking for the team fight stage, or looking to get a lot of roam and as much team fighting in as possible, because that's where their real strength shines through. Winthrop, on the other hand, does an amazing job in this laning phase, so they might have an early advantage here. And I love the Gnar pickup. I love me some Gnar, and we do like to see that in the top. Morgana as well, locked in for shorter ace. That has been a total coin flip, the Morgana lock-in. Yesterday's games were much more successful, though, in terms of that jungle Morgana being picked up. I mean, I'm loving what I'm seeing. Both of these teams are going in so aggressive, so hot and heavy. Yeah, Doxa got the Zoe!
Not just the Zoe, Gwen jungle. That's what we got from Frost Forest. We're putting Gwen in the jungle department, so into the Morgana matchup. Now you just have an S-tier pick, plus incredibly aggressive lanes. The Gnar into the Set was going to be a terrible matchup, so the Set will have to go into the support role. It's going to be last picked with the Wukong going top lane to deal with the Gnar, who will still lose the early phase, mind you. The Gnar does win early. Wukong, once he gets level 6, once he starts getting that gank pressure, he can actually beat up on the Gnar. But early on, with the Zoe Prio, with the Gnar pushing in, this is going to be a really aggressive early game from the Winthrop Eagles that I'm not sure if HU Storm can actually handle.
That's going to be the tough part for them for sure. Can they actually get to that team fight stage? Can they get to the point in the game where they will find success, not just with the style of play that they have, but clearly the composition that they have here? You know, the ultimates coming for the Cyclone from that Wukong. You've got the Showstopper from, or the Showstopper. I always confuse the player and the ability there. So a lot of initiation and engage, but you have to work up to that point. You just can't start right off the bat. And with Winthrop's laning phase looking so strong, it's going to be a real struggle this match.
Yeah, the laning phase, the Zoe too. We heard from Doxa in the interview yesterday. Favorite champion as well, signature pick, the Zoe. She is notorious for early lane priority, being able to roam down to the side lane. So I think they're going to focus on the top side of the matchup, because you also have the Ignite on the Zoe here. You just have such a great ability with these double range solo laners to actually then invade and fight against shorter ace. I'm so curious to see what Frost Forest has in store for us with this Gwen jungle. It's the first time I'm seeing her in the jungle in the competitive game, and so all eyes are on her on my side.
I do like, I mean, the fact that Saskia is on this Tristana as well, Sir Kenji is on this Nautilus, there's a lot of escapability too. So this is kind of a standalone lane. You can just leave it. You certainly don't have to babysit it. And that just reinforces the fact that they certainly are, or Winthrop is certainly going to have a lot of focus on this top side. Frost Forest being that player who used to be on HU, used to play for Harrisburg. So that is another point of contention here, that these guys are going up against an old teammate, and Frost Forest is going into a previous team.
Well, let's see what he does going into a previous team, because oftentimes you can use the knowledge that you knew about them before against them. If you know, okay, these are the tendencies that they like to do, this is how they like to play, and then you can sort of abuse that if the enemy team hasn't changed their ways. But it seems like the junglers are actually pathing from opposite sides, so we're actually ended up with a cross-map situation, and so the aggression in the bot lane will be really important to track because only one of these teams will get help from their jungler, and it's going to be Winthrop.
And in this previous matchup, too, a few of the same HU players, but not quite. There was a rematch between these two in a previous grand finals, and it ended up going over to Harrisburg. So we'll see how that works out. The exhaust is going to come out. A flash forward for Genji, but a flash forward and a haymaker means first blood for Clyde.
Clyde, so aggressive there. They had the push on the minion wave, so they had no problem being really upfront with how aggressive they wanted to play, that they got the initial trade, and there was nothing that Winthrop could do to fight back against that. Their minions were not against them, probably not expecting Haymaker to be this aggressive on the side of Clyde, and now they'll get a quick recall because it had been Scramgy being this aggressive with his hooks, but already they have a minion disadvantage, putting the wards in the brush to make sure that the aggro remains, and then there's just nothing that the Tristana can do to fight this. The Kai'Sa, with her passive proc, was going to be more damage. Good recognition of how strong this lane can be early on.
And an initiation from the Nautilus, so I'm sure Sir Kenji doesn't feel great about that when using the hook to go in and then not having it available to escape out through the wall. So losing that first blood, that's going to give a lot of pressure to HU down on that bottom side, meaning Winthrop might have to focus on it a little bit, but certainly still not quite as much as this top lane is where we're going to likely see a lot of movement. Same, HU Storm also absolutely loves to do team fights around objectives, so I would not be surprised if they make some early moves to try to set something up, as we can see some movement down for Dragon for Winthrop, and then on the other side we got the Scuttle race going here, so we will be a swap, right? Top side goes to red, bottom side goes to blue. Pretty even. I mean, it's a slow game. It's only 3.5 minutes in, but man, it feels like both of these teams are just kind of feeling each other out.
Yeah, they really are, because I think part of it is also they don't know exactly how good Gwen can be in the jungle, and I think we have our answers already. She's darn fast. She's faster than Morgana, in fact. Was able to do one more camp on this, and Hybrids, as long as he charges up his Rage Bar, he should be fine from a dive. Let's see if Shorter lands the bind.
There it is, the follow-up. An auto is gonna do it.
I think he needed a flash. Needed a flash to bind, would have survived, but Shorter Ace does have flash, so he can escape Frost Forest here, and we'll just have to burn his own to get away with a quick TP back to the lane. Just a few more autos, and that Rage Bar would have lived with some more action in the bot lane.
A lot more damage there onto Clyde, but that Haymaker's not going to hit thanks to the rocket jump from Saskio.
They keep looking for these fights in the bottom lane when they have the minion wave advantage. So Winthrop just needs to look at the minion waves and respect that that is what Harrisburg keeps using so that their counter engage is always at a disadvantage. So as long as they have a minion wave on their side, I think they'll be fine taking these trades. As long as they make sure that they have that damage on their side, it often ends up being surprising in a death recap when you check how much damage it happens and then it just minion autos for 100+ damage that never feels like it matters when you do it. It only seems that relevant in hindsight.
Especially early levels like we saw with the Nautilus going in for that first blood. Ooh, we got some pigs coming out around this dragon. Now a lot of really good vision from Winthrop. Likely going to be cleared out here by Harrisburg. In the meantime, Sandflame takes quite a few autos. This still isn't a great matchup for Wukong, but it is much better than the set. So I do like that flex pick in set. But the realization that you can force set going down into the bottom lane by picking that easy counter in Gnar was a great response there from Winthrop.
And you get a lot of value to the Wukong and the set combined when it comes to the team fight. Suplex with the double knockups as well is just an incredible way to start the fight and continue it. Here comes Scrungy again, has Frost Forest behind him.
Rocket Jump's going to go in, but the exhaust goes on to Saskio, who flashes forward, will pick up that kill, and Clyde is on the run.
And look at the minion wave. They've got minions, they've got their jungler behind them. They had a control ward earlier, so it's a great time for them to be aggressive while Hopefolks doesn't actually see that opportunity, and he just gets punished for it. It's going to be a good dragon, and because Harrisburg was not in a position to do anything else, Shorter Ace just roaming around into the top side looking for something to find. There isn't a trade opportunity for them to get something in return, and that just is value town for the side of Winthrop.
Very, very happy about that engage, especially after losing first blood here. So those little advantages are going to help Winthrop here take the early game. That's what they're going for. That's why they continue to have so much pressure here on this bottom side. They're trying to find some sort of early lead, and they don't have a ton of time left to do it before this set. This Wukong and the rest of them get a lot more survivability, a lot more initiation. Doxa, though, is going to take this ultimate here from Like a Moss, who gets ignited in response, but no kills.
Doesn't want to go a little bit too forward. Another paddle start could have actually been really dangerous for Like a Moss if he kept walking forward through that minion and the ignite, since the movement speed from Doxa was going to allow him to escape the Chaos Storm. So he's happy just staying in the lane, knowing that the Zoe doesn't have a teleport. She's laning with ignite, so he can just shove this wave out, have a safe recall, and once he has his own Mercury Treads completed, he'll be fine. He won't be as vulnerable as he currently is to the Zoe stuns and gank setup.
A lot more pressure. We can see the pings coming through here as Morgana makes her way down. Shorter Ace is going to throw out the binding, but it misses. Just a little bit of an appearance saying, hey, how are you? I'll take this ward. Goodbye.
And just that kind of appearance is oftentimes very annoying for the laners. They're saying, where's my jungle? I just keep getting harassed with the bindings, the psychological effect of knowing that the Morgana is in the bot side. Maybe she's just clearing the bot side camps and then returning down here prevents you from being aggressive. And you know, a game that is a 5-game series can often just be determined by how well you keep your mental composure, and it's the accumulation of small things that ends up doing the most damage.
Absolutely. So much damage there on to Clyde, who jumps into the bush, though, breaking vision. No final hit from Saskio. But my goodness, the damage there. Honestly, Clyde is doing such a fantastic job of sitting in these bushes, acknowledging that if this Nautilus tries to go in on my Kai'Sa, I'm not going to allow that to happen. I'm going to apply a ton of damage to the backside. And what a binding over the wall right there from Shorter Ace, who will pick up the kill on Doxa.
Very nice roam from him. Blue side, straight over the mid lane. Doesn't get spotted by the ward. The only opportunity Doxa had, I believe the red trinket was just barely glowing on the control ward, but by the time he saw that, it was already too late. Morgana was right behind him, and there weren't very many angles for him to flash away. Shorter Ace was already level 6, so he would have gotten an ultimate off, so it was just good timing from Shorter Ace, recognizing what was available to him. Clyde is 6.
There it is, the showstopper, but the flash away from that ultimate. The Haymaker's going to be pushed out. Saskia with a fantastic ultimate. It's not going to save Sir Kenji, but it will even the kills out. In the meantime, Shorter Ace is getting jumped on here by Shelly. Doesn't want to fight around this objective right now, but Gnar goes in and is too far. Now the ultimate coming out from the Mega Gnar. Ultimate as well, the Cyclone, but Hybrids is going to pick it up with that Q. Nice little drowsy from Doxa, but no ability to get down the Paddle Star. Thanks to the rest of the team. Like a Moss now on the run. Oh my gosh.
I think that was worth it.
Yeah, I think that was worth it, and I can already tell that Winthrop is going to be going for everything they absolutely can.
Yeah, now that so many flashes are down, you can just keep being so aggressive. Here they go, looking for the Kai'Sa once more, but she rightfully backs off, sees the minion wave, and knows that as long as the set is here first, she can go in. But without him, she is just a farming bot. And back to that top Herald fight, it ended up just being a 1-for-1, and they got the Rift Herald. So all things considered, it's pretty beneficial for Harrisburg since you killed the Zoe again. So we're going to take a look at how this actually played out. Since Shorter Ace was initially starting it, trying to solo it down, but the Gwen is just so strong right now. Luckily, the priority that Like a Moss had already over Doxa just keeps harassing the Zoe. Same thing happening in the top side with Sandflame, but trading your one top laner that you're going to just rely on for the team fight, for shutting down the Zoe, getting more gold into your Morgana and Victor is a worthwhile trade, in my opinion, as Morgana can be so devastating in just stopping the Zoe altogether. And here she goes once again, 0-3.
Yeah, that was not a great move, and certainly doesn't feel good for Doxa, who is certainly one of the players with a lot of eyes on him coming into this tournament. Really looking to take things home and got his favorite champion. So instantly Storm was like, all right, we're not going to allow this Zoe to pop off. We cannot let Doxa get into a really good position here because then it will be so difficult for us to get in on these objectives. And speaking of fights around objectives, Gwen is going to have to die. Face a gray screen right there as the dragon spawns. Infernal Drake has priority for Harrisburg.
She actually did so much damage on that, but I loved your point about how Doxa is on his favorite champion and is not receiving nearly as much help as like a Moz is, because oftentimes when you know you're playing with someone on their signature pick, you're thinking, oh, hands off, I don't need to help them, they got it down. Whereas the other team is thinking the complete opposite. So you end up having such a mismatch of resources. The Gwen being unfamiliar to everybody in the jungle role, not sure how she's going to end up affecting the mid lane as well as a ganking jungler like the Morgana can be. And so the result is 3 looks towards the mid lane end up giving kills for Harrisburg, while Zoe has yet to get any help and will have to just be a paddle star bot from now on to catch back in this game.
If they can hit that paddle star, like a Moz is going to get jumped on here, though. Hybrids throws out the ultimate. Has to flash away, though. The passive will apply there. And like a Moz almost takes down Hybrids. The Sleepy Trouble Bubble is going to hit from Doxa. No paddle star to follow that one up, but that means the Sand Flame can't catch up to Hybrids. It's very possible the shorter Ace can, though. Uses the smite there to try to get a slow on Doxa, but no, the miss and the TP down! Oh my goodness, barely staying alive is Hybrids, who decides to use that defensively, but it saves his life.
That is an outplay for sure. You get the kill, you get all the attention in the top side, and everybody gets out alive. You didn't miss any CS for it as well, and you got to kill the Victor, who was doing so much work already. Almost traded a kill back, mind you. There was a lot of flashes burned, but that's because some of those crucial skill shots ended up missing. Shows you how strong Victor is right now, but there's still life on the side of Winthrop here, particularly when you can start involving this Nautilus. It is just so easy to chain kills, but he's caught by himself, has flash, gets out of the stun.
Yeah, flashes away from that one, uses his hook. Honestly, it seemed like Moss and Clyde weren't that interested in Sir Kenji at all. There, no movement continued onto that red buff. They just kind of let it pass. Let's take another look at that previous fight, though.
Hybrids is a little uncertain if you should keep going on this, but a great gravity field is actually what ends up deterring the engage from just instantly killing the Victor. Already had the Merc Treads, and the reason why the Monkey King is not able to go onto the Gnar is he already used his dash leaving the base to get out quicker. He doesn't have that clone to cover that extra distance. And then here, without any vision of the actual brushes, he's not sure whether the Gnar actually walked away or started channeling the teleport. And as a result, Hybrids outplays it, and it only cost him a summoner spell.
Had a good feeling about that for sure from Sandflame walking over to throw it in the bush, but it's just a little too late. Hybrids going to take a couple of tower shots trying to harass Sandflame, but this has certainly been a very tough game here for this Harrisburg top laner. Doing fantastic, though, in creep and maintaining, not a massive gold disparity between the two of them. So still playing safely, and I like to see that with this matchup.
Yeah, and in this matchup, that extra turret shot that Hybrids actually took is what's keeping him away from the turret, because now he can get ulted.
Just going to be able to flash away. The Cyclone comes out again, and that should be enough damage because the jump was already used. Morgana's going to pick up that kill. A flash out of Sandflame, but a kill for the team.
Morgana keeps getting fed. Already has the Hourglass, though, so it's going to be a good item for actually team fighting and setting up his team. So they're recognizing where they need to be strong just in the 5v5s. Unfortunate that the money didn't go over to the Wukong, but we see what the matchup is intended to be doing. When Gnar is low, that's when you go in. The mini Gnar is always the time to strike against this champion, and Wukong punishes that so well. Despite having the Bramble Vest, the armor shred off his Q is just too high. There's too much damage out of his double Cyclone, and so he just gets taken down. It's a sitting duck when you've taken so many turret shots and they're just hunting the river for honeydews, recognizing that you are in critical danger.
And I kind of laughed, too, before that kill went through because I was like, what is Wukong doing here? Sandflame's low, like trying to harass out Hybrids here. And it's because Shorter Ace was waiting in the wings and ended up being successful for them. But Winthrop is going to take this second Shelly. Is there a name? Kelly? I like Kelly. Let's call her Kelly.
We'll call her Kelly. I've heard they go by very different names. You've got Shelly and Haroldine. You have now Kelly. So as long as we can agree that this is the second Herald, I think that's the only recognition they really want. The rest is up to us.
It is going to be the second tower going down here for Winthrop. In fact, Kelly, or whatever, whatever her name is, may get a second charge off here. It looks like she will. So much pressure coming from Winthrop, these 3 members here. And yeah, Harrisburg is in the enemy jungle, but that's not going to help when your base is getting broken into on the top side.
They thought they'd stop this push, but this Shelly charge just keeps going and going. Okay, they're not going to go for an inhibitor.
No!
Take it. Yeah, this is fine. You do not want to be taking an inhibitor this early on. There won't be any value to that one since Baron is not up for another 3 minutes, but just got a lot of value. Now, it's not as much gold as the other turrets. There's no plates, and we're already past that stage, but it will come at the cost of the dragon, and at least Harrisburg is able to answer a turret and a dragon of their own. But now the top side, the big danger is that whoever is pushing that lane will need to have a teleport because they will be so much further from their team than if they were at their tier 2.
And not just that, but there's so much mobility, too, on the side of Winthrop. One of the things I was talking about in the pick ban scrums was just the fact that they've got this amazing escapability. And all of these jumps, the rocket jump away from Saskio, double jump from hybrids if you can get onto something. Just, I mean, so many options to navigate around team fights and to be able to get pushes like we just saw in the top lane. The Nautilus able to hook out. The rest of the members not even needing to, but having the ability to escape as well if they need it. So those heavy pushes are what we should continue to expect from Winthrop. Likely those 3 members, or 3 or 4 members, and then just a little bit more pressure around the objectives because they can get out if they go too far in.
And when they have that mobility that it's so easy to evade those engages, it's exactly when you want to be looking for these flanking engages. Set is an amazing target to go around the backside, look for the side, and get an engage onto the enemy. Same thing with the Wukong, especially if you can pair one of them with a black shield. You're ensuring that the fight actually happens. So I need to see deep vision out of the side of Harrisburg if they want to get these fights. None of this running straight at them. While it can work, it'll just be so much more devastating. Oh, he flashed in. He's going.
He goes in. The Haymaker gets him a little bit of a shield, but he is going to go down. That's 5 members against none. Shorter Ace throwing out the Chains of Corruption. Using that, Zonius already has to flash over the wall. Still picks up a kill there like a mouse. Gets stunned out of the Cyclone. Comes out on the backside. There is the second charge of it. Sandflame's going to pick one of those kills up. Hybrids on the backside being poked out by Hopeful. Like a Moss finds another one there, and only 1 member is left alive. And Saskia not going to stay alive for long, and that is 5 gray screens on the side of Winthrop. A clean ace for Harrisburg.
I thought Clyde was a madman there because Wukong wasn't even close. He walked from the bot lane to that fight, but the engage bought enough time for everybody to make it in, and the re-engages from Winthrop baited them in. They thought they could stay in the fight. The hooks were landing, but that was exactly what Harrisburg wanted. So Clyde goes in by himself. There really is nobody here to follow up. The Black Shield barely keeps him alive. It's good that Shorter Ace had the stopwatch, and here is where the 1 kill from Winthrop keeps baiting them in. The hook is here, but by the time it lands, Wukong is already here. Hybrids and Frost Forest were caught over the ledge, having to flash and dash over, but that was just enough for the rest of the team to get run down. This Victor's already so fast, so swift at catching the Tristana, and the clean ace this early on is devastating. While the gold lead might not spell it out, it just shows you that at a 4v5 almost, they're losing the team fights, and that is not a good sign for Winthrop if they want to stay in this game, because they will have to continue to fight these dragons, as this next one will put Harrisburg on soul point.
Honestly, it feels like they just need to be a little bit more careful. They keep going in as though they have a massive lead over Harrisburg, and that's not the case. In fact, now Harrisburg has about a 3K gold lead, a little, well, 2+ K gold lead. There is the Sleepy Trouble bubble, but Dox and Saskia are going to have to run away from this one. Teleport coming through, meaning Dox has to flash over the wall. The binding does not hit. Shorter Ace taking so much damage there from Saskia. They're just going to disconnect from this fight. I mean, Harrisburg's looking for something, but Winthrop's not going to let it happen.
The TP from Sandflame, they really wanted to use it, but it got just immediately canceled out by the flash from Doxa, just flashing over the wall. But here goes Clyde once again. Hex flashes down, doesn't get hit by the bubble, won't be able to re-engage as swiftly as he'd like. Watch Shorter Ace, if he can land a sneaky bind. Ooh, barely missed.
Barely missing so much damage there onto Saskia, and that hook's going to hit the old tower. The Cyclone coming out here. Haymaker doing a lot of damage, but Clyde goes down. Then on the other side, Frost Forest loses his life to Sandflame. The re-engage here onto Doxa, but it's going to be Sandflame going down. Hybrid's picking up the kill. That's a Meganar, and now Harrisburg has to kind of walk away from this one.
They don't want to back down. They see each other in the fight. It kind of messed up at the beginning. Oh, so much damage.
Going back in the Sleepy Trouble Bubble, and the ultimate coming out from Hybrids. That means Hopeful is going to pick up a kill, but then Gnar gets taken down to follow that. A lot more success than I would have expected there for Harrisburg at the end.
That is a relentless fight. Just how quickly they keep going in. They're not satisfied with a teleport that doesn't get anybody. They are looking for kills, and they will get them. It doesn't matter at what cost it comes, but now the problem is 2 seconds until spawn. Nobody is prepared for the dragon. Both teams are just beelining it straight down to the objective, and none have their entire ultimate. So this next fight will probably be really scrappy and a lot messier. It looks like they're going to end up giving it up, though, just because Gwen died earlier. We'll be able to respawn sooner and gets the objective. So despite losing the fight, they end up winning the objective, and that is more critical since the gold lead stays the same.
And everyone kind of has to be careful right here. I mean, we don't have a single flash up on either team. You got Hex flashes available for Clyde and Sir Kenji, so probably not the worst choice there for Harrisburg to concede that objective.
So Sir Kenji goes in, and Clyde is thinking that the hook is going to connect onto the Victor. So he tries to get him out of the fight, but by putting himself so far up, nobody can follow up. The Kai'Sa's not going to ulti, and the Wukong isn't going just yet. And when he goes in, just kind of dies right away. That tells Winthrop, oh, we can continue to go in. It's going to be fine. Except Shorter Ace lands a huge bind here from out of sight, catches the Tristana, and tells everybody on Harrisburg it's time to go in. Actually ends up hunting the Kai'Sa into the Sleepy Trouble bubble. And that was the team fight win for Winthrop. That got them the objective. It buys much more time, and picks like Zoe are just so good at making sure that even if you do fall behind, you always have the option of catching somebody and getting that one-man advantage later on into the game. So they are never going to be out of this one.
And I mean, Saskia is doing great, being so aggressive now. 3-2-3, so has managed to catch things up. They have managed to staunch a few of those champions or members on fire there. No more bounty for you, Kai'Sa. I hate to see that kind of fight too, because we saw it in the mid, Saskia flash in and then just immediately get killed, turned around on. But the commitment is certainly there from Washington. Shorter Ace looking for another sneaky play here. Very, very common for him. No, they're just going to clear out Vision. And I think Vision has been one of the most difficult things here for Winthrop, or for Harrisburg for the most of the game. Winthrop has been kind of securing that, but my gosh, take a look at the map now. Even though Winthrop has 4 towers, Harrisburg has so much more vision, and they're just so much more dedicated to clearing out the enemy's vision to ensure that they can make these sneaky plays and have some safe hits.
There's so much around the red side, but the critical one at Baron, the one that they were counting on that wouldn't be killed, has just been removed, and this is the real danger. But a fight might be breaking out against Frost Forest. Oh, Cyclone gets popped. We're going.
There it is, the flash away here. Shorter Ace has to use the Zonias, and so much damage takes Clyde, but the Haymaker does a ton. Hopeful gonna pick up one, just take one tower shot here. Sandflame is just taken down a ward. Doxa is on the run, though. Manages to hit the Sleepy Trouble bubble on like a moss, but no follow-up.
Killing the Tristana is a good enough sign to start the Baron, considering how much vision advantage they have. Doxa face-checking this is going to be really scared. They don't have a blue trinket. It's only Tristana. Now they know, but they're looking to turn onto the Zoe. Can blast cone over. She should be fine unless Clyde wants to kill her, and he does.
Ooh, the flash over the wall from Clyde, and then the showstopper to follow it up. All 5 members, though, coming to the aid there to try to take down Doxa. Both summoners were removed from him, so a worthwhile trade for Harrisburg.
Oh, they're so happy with this one. Yeah, they didn't get the objective, but they keep just killing Winthrop out as a result of their vision, as a result of them just being ready to capitalize on the individual members coming in. Frost Forest was looking for an angle on the right-hand side, so he's not able to join the left because Sandflame is there, trading ultimate with him, and so Saskia exposed, gets taken down, and then even more members get killed as Doxa dies one more time, and we're really starting to see the value of Clyde on this set pick. Early rotation, never faltered, got first blood, still super relevant in these team fights.
For sure, and this is one of the players that we expect that from. Always a solid rock, very stalwart play coming from this member, a big shot caller as well, and I love to see that coming from supports because you have to have great awareness of the map in general to be able to do a good job of that and make sure you're keeping down solid vision. So Clyde has done so much for this team now, sitting at 3-3-7, but has finished that chem tank, and as we can see, a lot of finished first items here. Nothing too surprising. This might be an engage onto Sandflame. Hopeful taking so much damage from the Paddle Star. The Drowsy is going to hit there. Sandflame has to flash away from this one. The teleport coming in. Shorter Ace gets the binding on the other side. Winthrop starts to disconnect from this fight, and that's that.
Harrisburg was just not in a position to commit to any of these fights just yet. The Wukong wasn't going to burn ultimate for the Gnar, who wasn't exhausted. He would have been able to build his rage out of that. And Frost Forest, really hard to 1v1. So much heal on this champion. Nobody has healing reduction just yet. So they need to take him out as a group. And so you're losing 2 fights on 2 fronts. Nobody's close to follow either up. So they just back off, and they're glad about it because now Winthrop, who burned so many resources, who now has to reset, is not in a position to contest this dragon. They're just going to be farming away. And once again, Harrisburg has conditioned the entire red side jungle for only their eyes with all the control wards that they have. And so Winthrop not even going to bother trying to advance. They're just going to keep Zoe in the side lanes, and Gnar will be there too, but they're going after him. He's got flash to get out if he needs it.
Showstopper comes out, pull you in for Hybrid. Shorter Ace is on the way, though. A flash into the bush, but the binding hasn't come out yet. That will do it. The ultimate is going to be used, but not into the wall. But Shorter Ace gets the connection on Chains of Corruption. That is going to be a kill, another kill for Harrisburg. In the meantime, it looks like Winthrop is trying to start this Baron.
It was a bait when you send 3 members to the bottom side when Baron is up. You're going to get the Baron started, but the team fight has been won by Harrisburg.
There it is. So much damage there coming out from Baron as well. Frost Force having to use the Zonias, but it's not going to help. And that means they've just handed Harrisburg a nice, free, juicy Baron.
And the kill on the Gnar, the kills on the bot lane, even the jungle got taken out, so there is no threat of a steal. That is a huge advantage, but that was the opportunity that Winthrop thought was theirs. They needed to do something to climb back into this game. They were losing the team fights handedly, and so they thought, this is our go. We've got a Tristana with the Kraken Slayer. We've got our Gwen. They just didn't have quite enough time because they got knocked up, and the Victor is so strong. He's been getting gold from the start of the game, getting kills in the mid lane by himself. He buys so much time and so much damage from a distance that doesn't commit him to get engaged on. And we can just leave the Chaos Storm in there, no one to engage upon. You gotta disengage from the Baron. By that time, it's already too late.
Not another ace, but it was clean, taking 4 members down. Harrisburg. Now they're going to be pushing mid lane here with these Baron empowered minions. Not feeling too horrible about the top lane. They've sent Sandflame up there.
Oh.
Do a little bit of recon and pushing back. Sir Kenji is engaging here on Leica. Moss Hybrids is following this one up. The ultimate going to do a lot of damage on the backside, and there it is. Leica Moss does enough. You said it just a moment ago, Crumbs. There's so much damage coming from this player.
Oh.
Trouble Bubble will hit, but the Paddle Storm misses, and Leica Moss might have the chance to get out of this alive. And he will.
He 1v3'd. He just 1v3'd, traded a kill, almost 2. He's going to get another. Oh, no!
No way. And there's no vision there. That was just him absolutely knowing, all right, you guys didn't leave. You're not chasing me. Well, then you must be recalling this Tribush. It's going to be another kill to push forward by HU Storm. There's the Showstopper on the backside. Haymaker for a nice little shield. So much damage from the Killer Instinct. And the Q on Hopeful, who has to flash away here, but it doesn't matter because Baron empowered minions are hitting the Nexus, and Harrisburg University have found themselves the first in this best of 5.
I'm going to highlight every player here. They actually all played really well. The bot lane from Clyde getting the first blood. Attention to the mid lane. Shorter Ace's Morgana was solid. And then the Wukong was having a great time in the team fights and survived the early laning phase, even punished the Gnar in the windows that he had to. Harrisburg came out to play in this first game, and in the best of, they really sent a statement.
And I mean, sending a statement for starting here on the red side too, with the picks that were on the side of Winthrop. I mean, we had a lot of confidence in that early game, but I think that was one of the biggest things that Harrisburg did best is they staunched the early game. They prevented that snowball from forming towards the beginning, and that meant that they had a slight advantage, and they kept taking everything they possibly could. So while Winthrop had some really good fights, you got to consider, again, HU Storm, they consider themselves one of the best team fighters, one of the best macro players, and we saw it right there in that first game for sure.
They won with the team fights, but I think from Winthrop, you got to go back to the laning phase. We thought the draft gave him those advantages, but the play clearly did not resemble that. So they're going to have to go back to the drawing board. Make sure that you don't get first blooded 2v2. Make sure that you help your players on their signature picks. And I think part of it can just be the jungle pathing. Maybe starting on the bot side, routing to the top side to assist the lanes that are going to have that natural priority. And all of that can be solved in the prep and the downtime that we're going to have as the teams prepare from one game to the other.
Well, we'll see how game number 2 goes. We are going to take a really quick break. When we come back, we're going to have those beautiful faces on the State Farm analyst desk to break everything down. So don't go anywhere. Don't touch that browser. Stay with us, and we'll be back with more College League of Legends.
Welcome back to the 2021 College League of Legends Championship. HU Storm dropped some water droplets on those eagle wings, putting some heavy weight for them to pick up the L on the other side. But I am so excited to get into this. I also had the thought actually during that game that between Niles and Five Fire, we've just had a load of champions just coming onto our desk today, which I think is the coolest thing ever. But another cool thing is talking about the games. And Emily, let's kick it off with the draft.
Yeah, so this draft was wildly different than the drafts we saw in the previous series. We had a really heavy set priority that I think paid off super, super well. That's a comfort pick for Clyde if you've been following what he's played in the past. And he showed us exactly why, right? That we got a bot lane kill level 1, which we definitely were not expecting. He was a really, really huge part of a lot of these team fights. So that priority in the draft obviously really, really paid off for them. We also saw kind of a lack of prio in junglers compared to the previous series. I actually thought they were going to go for the Morgana Rumble kind of trade that you typically see, but surprise, it's Gwen jungle.
Surprise, surprise. But I think that Gwen is one of the ones that we all called out that we definitely wanted to see. I think something that's interesting, Five Fire, that you brought up, Victor is a pick that kind of brought some tension on our desk earlier in the earlier matchup where we weren't as excited to see it, but it does feel like it is a suitable pick in this regard.
No, yeah. Like Amaz has been playing a ton of the Victor. You look at, I think 5 of his 6 most recent games were on this champion. So obviously he's super comfortable and he really showed up in this game, in these fights, even just in lane, with the help of Short Race being able to find out Doxa multiple times, get a big lead for himself, and live in the majority of these fights. And we saw towards the end him just flexing his muscles, going 1 versus 2, 1 versus 3 in the side lane and pulling it off. So I'll be interested to see if Winthrop think that the Victor is a problem and they try to ban it or take it away, or if they think they can figure out a way to deal with it.
And looking at this game, Winthrop did have moments that were quite bright for themselves as we start to look at some of those moments brought to you by Stream Recap Five Fire. There was some action that we saw early on that seemed to give them some hope.
Yeah, so we saw starting off here, even though the bot lane did die in that level 1, they're able to get this gank off here. Sasuke gets the kill. This entire wave just goes into the tower and no one's able to farm it. Meanwhile, they also are able to get the dragon because of the priority from that kill in bot lane and that Doxa had in the mid lane. So they were able to find some good angles in the early game. But, Harrisburg was able to get some of these dragons back. And we're able to, use this Herald in the mid lane, find some more picks, and take this dragon as well.
Yeah, and I thought this run of play was really great from Harrisburg, right? They get the catch on Doxa in the jungle. They then immediately transition that into popping Herald mid, getting that first turret. If anyone knows, once you're setting up for Drake, the most important thing you do is actually making sure your mid wave is pushed. It's super important. I see a lot of teams mess this up, actually, even at the pro level. And, this is something that I really liked this run of play for them because they get first turret off of it. They get the next Drake off of it. They basically stop, Winthrop from being able to stack Drakes. It's just a really cool run of play from Harrisburg that showed how well they were able to capitalize on a single pick.
It doesn't surprise me that was impressive to you, Emily, considering I can, think back to times of you calling back to LPL strategies and using those heralds mid, trying to get that pressure. And hey, we saw some college teams be pretty effective.
Yeah, forever screaming at people that use herald mid, actually.
Yeah. Apparently, your voice did bleed through in the voice comms here in this game. But another thing about this game, it was extremely scrappy Five Fire, especially compared to some of the earlier series that we saw within the recent days.
Yeah, coming into this series, I honestly thought we were going to have a nice, slow game. We were going to take things easy, but it was just fight after fight after fight. We see Clyde going in here. It looks bad. Oh no, he got picked. He's dead. But then Short Ace lands this binding on the back end, and the fight just goes crazy. There's another hook landing. People are flashing out, flashing in all over the place. And fights like this just kept happening over and over, but it seemed like Harrisburg were able to find the better of most of these fights. They have the really strong team fighting comp with the Wukong, with the Victor and the Kaisa. So it's not a huge surprise, but man, was this game crazy.
And I think here is where we saw the strength of Harrisburg, right? Because we said, how are they going to win this? We talked about how we are really, we have a firm belief in Winthrop's players. We talked about how Harrisburg was like, you know, Short Race even said, he's like, we don't have the mechanical difference on our side, right? So we have to win through superior communication and superior team fighting. They picked this composition they're obviously very comfortable with, multiple comfort picks for a lot of their members, and they pilot it really, really well in these fights, and that's how they end up winning the game. So again, like, we talk about a lot of these collegiate teams kind of eschewing whatever you think the meta is strong right now, and then going for what they're super comfortable on, obviously within certain parameters. And I think that's what we saw from Harrisburg here.
It's been a very important call out across the board, considering that even some of the lane swaps that we've seen throughout the entirety of the tournament are just to make sure that player gets to be on the champ that they want to play. And it worked out so well for HU Storm having those comfort picks here. We do know that HU have selected red side going into game number 2. Five Fire, if you're on the opposite end and you're looking to tie up the series, is there anything that you would like to see differently or call out?
I would like to see Frost Forest on a jungler with a little more agency. You know, he was doing really well setting up for his team. The Gwen is more of an individual pick, and while, you know, he didn't look really bad on it, you know, he had a fine game. I want to see him have that playmaking potential, the ability to go in, find some picks for his team and set them up in the lanes. As well, you know, I think, you know, the rest of their team comp was, you know, mostly fine, pretty bog standard stuff, but just be prepared that Harrisburg is going to build this team fight comp and you're going to have to fight them at 30 minutes and you need to have a plan ready for that.
Yeah.
Gotta have the plan. Get the plan, get your head into the game. We are so excited to get into game number 2. Eventually, HU Storm have landed the first blow here in our best of 5 series, and we know just how wild it can get in the C-Lol. I'm so ready for this. We'll see you on the other side of this break for the continued action.
I didn't order a pizza.
I know, but that Parker promo saved me so much on my insurance. Brought you a little something special.
Parker, State Farm offers everyone surprisingly great rates.
You're the man, man.
And you want the real deal? Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.